everyone, we can go ahead and get started. I'm Jessica Raby. I'm the program manager for the Piedmont Triad Regional Workforce Development Board, and I have with me Michelle Slayton, who is the Business Services Coordinator for Forsyth and Davie counties. We do have a business team that covers the rest of the 7 counties under the Workforce Development Board. So today we're going to do a quick Q&A specific to resources available as it pertains to COVID. I'll start off with talking about a few of the options for unemployment benefits and what that looks like from the perspective of the employer, and some pieces that are relevant to individuals as well. And then we'll talk about some of the options, funding and other resources that businesses have available to them. We won't focus so much on the SBA options because I think there's a lot of information available about that right now. We'll look at 4 other options. A couple are local and a couple are a little bit different, and just provide some more options based on the needs of the businesses. So we'll start off talking about state unemployment insurance benefits. So I've included here the online website that we highly encourage anyone to go to complete their application, and the phone number if they need any additional assistance. So regardless of what the situation is, I'm sure you'll hear me say this plenty of times throughout the presentation, first and foremost, individuals should go to the DES website to complete their application. Employers are able to file benefits claims on behalf of their employees. They should also go to this webpage. That's why it's really important. It'll stay on here for the rest of the presentation. First question, can I apply on behalf of my employees? Yes, you can. In fact, a number of the executive orders address this and make it a little bit more simple for employees to employers to file on behalf of their employees. Again, you go through the des.nc.gov website to complete this portion. There are considerations that have changed a little bit in the last few weeks. Initially, unemployment account through the state for the employer had to be in good standing in order to go ahead and apply that way, but they've waived a lot of those restrictions that were holding employers up to do that for their employees. So these pieces have changed and have made it very easy for employers to file. Next, are part-time employees eligible? So this is a question that comes up quite a bit. For any of your part-time employees, are they eligible for unemployment insurance, and should they apply for those benefits? So there are pots of money that would cover part-time employees. It would also cover those who have their hours reduced. So I think that's really important to highlight as well. The same application is used whether this is the traditional state employment insurance or the provisions under the CARES Act. So I think it's important, regardless of the situation, if you think that you may be eligible, go ahead and fill out that application. And if your employee is coming to you and asking these questions, send them to that DES website or send them to the phone number below and have them fill out that application, because regardless of the pot of money, it's going to be that same application. Are independent contractors eligible? So typically, self-employed or independent contractors are not eligible for state unemployment insurance in the state of North Carolina. However, the provisions through the CARE Act allow for independent contractors to access a separate pot of money. So that provides some flexibility there with them being able to, meet that need as their hours have been reduced or whether they have been furloughed for the time being. So again, encourage your independent contractors to go ahead and complete that application. There's a problem with my account. So this is a statement that carries weight in 2 different directions, and something that folks come to us and ask us quite a bit. So first, if an employer is saying this, there's a problem with the account. Typically, they're referring to the unemployment account with the state of North Carolina. We encourage you to contact DES to discuss the status of that account and what that looks like. If the employer's unemployment account is not set up fully with the state, or there's some issue with there, the employees could have difficulty matching with that and would be delayed in receiving their benefits. So that's really important. Second, if individuals are saying there's a problem with my account, they're referring to their claim to access unemployment benefits. They need to first complete the account through DES, but let's say they've done that, they've already filed their application, they're still having difficulty, they're not able to reach someone by phone we highly encourage folks to contact a new resource on the same webpage, that des.nc.gov, the customer contact form. So this, any additional concerns fall into that space if you need to cancel your claim because your employer was able to receive some payroll support through one of the funding streams. If you're unable to access your account because you've lost your PIN, you're having username or password issues, any of those concerns, that's where you would access that. You go to the DES webpage and there's just a quick link there, and you click the customer contact form, and they're able to bring forth any of those extra special circumstances or questions that you may have. So it's an important feature, and that's a new feature that hasn't always been there. I think it's important to highlight. So we'll take a look now at the CARES Act provisions for unemployment. So this is the federal legislation that is supplemental and supportive of the unemployment benefits that are typically offered through the state of North Carolina. Once again, same access point, online and phone number. They're going to apply through the same portal, and what will happen is any eligibility requirements or determinations will be made based off of that initial application. So there typically will not be other steps, and they'll be able to access that through the same place. One of the questions that we're hearing quite a bit, is there a $600 increase to UI payments? So one of the provisions under the CARES Act is that there are other funding streams. There are 3 additional funding streams than the typical state unemployment benefits. One such can add an additional $600 to the typical unemployment benefit. That is an option, and it is available to eligible individuals. However, to determine your eligibility, you need to go ahead and complete your unemployment claim, your initial claim, through the state. So it's not a guarantee that everyone will get an additional $600, but that is an option, and it is available for those in need. However, there are 2 other provisions that cover different folks. Some are not yet available, and they will be available after April 21st. However, the encouragement is to go ahead and fill your claim so that your application will be waiting. By the time this opens up, you will have already sent that in. So that's an important feature, and I think it's an important aspect to note that your employees or you as an individual wouldn't automatically receive that $600 increase. That's for eligible individuals. Next, we hear this statement quite a bit. I or my employees are not eligible for unemployment insurance for this reason. And there are a number of reasons that folks say. However, one of the CARES Act provisions is a separate pot of money that talks about gaps in traditional unemployment benefits. And I think it's important to go ahead and fill out your claim in case you fall into that space. So this is a very different pot of money that covers atypical costs. So independent contractors are a good example. They would fall into that space and would be covered even though they normally wouldn't be under unemployment benefits. So I'm encouraging really anyone who's coming forward to asking those questions about unemployment insurance to go ahead and file their claim, and they should be able to go ahead and do so, and then they would have their application applied to those CARES Act provisions. When will I or my employees get a check? So this is a difficult question. The hope is that the CARES Act provisions, because they've taken their time in setting up that structure, will go out 2 weeks after their opening window. So for example, one of the CARES Act provisions opens April 25th, and they had said they would hope it would be 14 days after that. However, we're just facing unprecedented numbers of applications, so at this time it's difficult to answer exactly when the checks would come in, but to just stay on top of your account and make sure you get your application early, and that will assure that you will get your check as quickly as possible. Are nonprofit and or church employees eligible? So there are provisions under the CARES Act that would cover nonprofit or church employees. Again, some of these pots of money would cover folks who are not typically eligible. So it's important to just go ahead and, again, get your application in, encourage your employees to get their applications in so that they could receive all of the possible support that they are eligible for. So we'll switch gears a little bit. Unemployment benefits are a hot topic, and folks are wanting to know what they're eligible for, what their employees are eligible for, and what those steps look like. So hopefully we covered that sufficiently, but I want to move forward and talk about some of the options for businesses who want to remain open or who are having to close parts of their operation and are just needing that additional support. So there are provisions that are available for businesses, and I want to highlight 4 of those that are not the SBA loan. So a lot of folks are talking about the SBA loan funds, which are a valuable resource to eligible businesses, and they do meet some needs. However, there are some local options, and there are options that might be more specific to your needs. So what I think is the most important thing to do for businesses is to really take a look at what's going on, even in the midst of a crisis, and say, what are my business's critical points? What are those pain points? And to talk about, looking at these funding options and looking at these additional supportive resources for businesses and trying to find one that matches that need versus locating a pot of money and trying to backfit that. I just think it's important to focus on your business and the support that you need. And what's really great about the Workforce Development Board is that we have folks on our team like Michelle, who works specifically with businesses to work with you on that assessment, talk about all the available options and really connect you with those resources. So we'll make sure at the end of this you guys have contact information for our business team to be able to talk that through if you're still trying to figure out what your best next step might be. What should my business do? So I think I just hit on that a little bit. Contact our business team and we can help, work with you through that and what's going on and what your next steps could be. So I think that's just a really good resource is to rely on them. And to really take an assessment of what's going on and what's available. There are just so many options that are coming up. I've said a number of times throughout this, it's like every week is like a month's worth of information that we're being thrown at us, which is fantastic because that means there are a lot of opportunities, but it also means there's a lot of content to sort through. So having someone who's specially qualified and does this every day, looking at these business resources, I think is really important to have that person in your team. So we'll start to highlight 2 funding options, and there will be 2 additional in the following slide. The first is the Save Small Businesses Fund offered through the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and this is a very different grant opportunity. It is a small amount of money, so it's $5,000 grants. However, I think the payoff is really great because it's only a 10-minute application using only your W-9, so it's a quick they say that their goal and their mission with this fund is to send out as many small business loans or grants, as possible in that $5,000 space. So they really are just trying to meet that critical. Today, my business is having, some cash flow struggles in the midst of a pandemic, and I think that's perfectly reasonable given the scope of things. The eligibility requirements are interesting and start to address very specific issues as most of these will. Eligibility requirements are that the employer has 3 to 20 employees, so a smaller business, and that they're located in an economically vulnerable community. So you can go to the Save Small Business Fund website and you can enter the zip code that your business is located in and determine if you're in an economically vulnerable community. I'll say I have looked into quite a few of the zip codes in the Triad area, and the majority of those fall within that space. So I think that's important to go ahead and check that out before you send your application and make sure you fall within that specific guideline. Other than that, it's a very simple guideline or application. The final eligibility requirement is that you can show that your business was impacted by COVID-19, which again is a trend throughout these business resources. Finally, the exclusions for this fund, those who wouldn't be eligible are independent contractors. So you're going to have to be, a small business with a couple of employees and located in one of those areas that they have deemed economically vulnerable. The next provision is a little bit different versus a grant or a loan. This is going to be a payroll tax credit through the CARES Act. This is one of those provisions. It is known as the Employee Retention Credit. So by keeping employees on your payroll, you will receive a $50 qualified wages up to $5,000 per employee as a payroll tax credit. So the eligibility for this piece is if your business has faced full or partial shutdowns due to COVID-19. So again, this is specific to that resource. And this is going to, again, be specific to wages paid during the March 13th to December 31st of 2020 timeframe. However, I've seen some provisions that say this may get expanded to 2021. So keep an eye out for that if this is an option that you're interested in. Exclusions for the employee retention credit. They're not to be used in conjunction with the payroll protection program, paycheck protection program with the small business loans. So you're just not able to use this at the same time. So if you receive that PPP benefit, you're not going to be able to do the employee retention credit. And the final exclusion is if you're self-employed, that would be something you wouldn't be able to take advantage of. However, there are others that you would. So we'll look at the next options. The Rapid Recovery Loan Program is an offering through the North Carolina Rural Center. This is going to be an up to $50,000 loan. They're going to cap it at 2 months revenue. So they're going to look at your statements and determine what 2 months revenue is for your business and cap that loan at that amount with a max of $50,000. For this loan, it'll be 0 interest, no payments for 6 months, and then convert to a term loan. Eligibility requirements for the Rapid Recovery Loan Program are that it must be a North Carolina business with a minimum of 1 employee, and you can be self-employed. So I think that's important as well. Some of these options do have that exclusion. You can't be self-employed, but this is one that's really great. Another feature and something that they're highlighting through this program is the rapid piece of the process. So the goal is to quickly get you those funds so that you can be carried over through this difficult time, and while you're and while your business is facing those financial difficulties. I think that's just a really critical need at this time, is that kind of support. And then finally, the Main Street Loan Program through the Federal Reserve. So again, this is a different type of opportunity. This is going to be a loan program offered through the Federal Reserve, meaning that it's going to go through the eligible lenders. The minimum amount for this loan is $1 million, and it may be a new loan or an extension of an existing loan. So if you're already working with one of the banks that serve as an eligible lender, you could discuss that existing loan and talk about expanding that within the parameters of the Main Street Loan Program. Eligibility requirements for this loan, again, this is going to be for what they're considering small to medium companies, but the others, I think we're a little bit more focused on the smaller companies, so I wanted to hit something that covered a little bit of broader scope of employers. These are going to be companies that have less than 10,000 employees or less than $2.5 billion in revenue for 2019. Again, that's that small to medium employer group. As the second eligibility requirement is going to be that the business, was financially solvent before the COVID crisis. So it's all right that you've hit some hard times during this time, as long as you can prove your stability, prior to the COVID-19 crisis, and that your impact was because of COVID. So I think that that's a logical step there, that financially solvent and then impacted by COVID. Finally, the exclusions for this provision are going to be that you may not use this funding stream to repay other loans. And I think that truthfully is probably a typical requirement of some of the other loan programs as well, that you would be able to repay other loans with those current and existing loans. But that's a larger scale option, but we really run the gamut from $5,000 options up to the $1 million and beyond. And truthfully, the Main Street Loan Program maximum is in the tens of millions of dollars. So it's a very large spectrum for that piece. So I want to open it up to questions, and I'll make sure that we include our contact information for our business team so that each of you could discuss with a individual specific to your county area in the triad with what your concerns are. What I think is really important is to assess what your needs are. So whether your needs are your employees are asking questions about unemployment benefits, or maybe it is, your companies wanting to stay open, or just needing that financial support for the time being. There are options available. There are quite a few options available, and I think the difficult point that we're at now is just finding someone who can help you navigate those resources and connect you with the one that would best suit your business's needs. So I'm going to open this up to Michelle and see if you have anything to add or offer as a resource. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming. And if there are any questions, please contact us and we'll make sure that we connect to you with any of the available resources, talk to you more about those. And truly, there are resources coming at us every day that are new and address many of the different needs that your business may have. So please reach out with those questions. Thank you.